Hello class, this is Shadrach Beth and I'm going to discuss you through the cell cycle. The cell cycle is the process where the cell prepares a new cell so that it can divide. The cell cycle itself prepares the cell to divide mitotically mitotically in order to form new different cells. So this process takes up to 5-6 steps, and I'm going to go through those 6 steps together with you. So we start over with a small cell, and first of all, the cell itself has different jobs. It has different jobs that enables the whole body or the whole plant to continue working normally, because there is production of energy in there. There is also this mitosis and the cell division, all those. And we are going to talk today all about, so what we are going to talk about today is all about the cell division. That's through the cell cycle. So this one now represents one of the many cells, one of the cells that we are going to divide ourselves right here today. So in this cell, there will be, I'm going to put one chromosome and one protein. And the chromosome I'm going to represent here is in green, and the protein I'm going to represent it in red. And the protein I'm going to represent in red. So this cell undergoes a certain process here, which for now we don't know the name, but I'll name it in a few. Then now, because we want this, because the cell needs to, for the cell to duplicate, to form more chromosomes, it has to have more protein. So we'll have another cell, but bigger than this one, and it will have more proteins than this one. So we'll have that big cell. Then our protein and the chromosome that one in the first cell is that one. So we are going to form a new protein. We are going to form a new protein whereby this protein will enable the cell to produce more of the chromosomes. And this protein I am going to represent in blue. Yes, blue. So after forming that new protein, after going through this process, it forms a new protein, and this new protein will have to create more of the chromosomes. And as the cell continues with the mitosis throughout the cell division stage, it will be able to have more of the chromosomes and more of the proteins to create many of them. So after having a new protein now this cell can be able now to form another new chromosome. But the cell itself is not going to change. The size of the cell is not going to change. It will still remain as this one. If I could copy paste, I could just take it right there. But let's do it manually. Yes. So new the protein and the chromosome that was there in the new cell in the previous cell, and we will have a whole new chromosome that has been formed due to the presence of just an extra protein. If I had 2 of them here, it would have been 4 of these proteins would have been formed, and this one will be 4 there. two, then another two extra, it would have been a very bigger cell. So, but because I have a little space, I'm going to use just one. It goes to another different process, which I'm going to name it to you right here in a few minutes. And this one now, the cell itself is going to arrange the chromosomes into a good line. This means that the chromosomes are going to condense, and the condensation of these proteins will prepare the condensation of these chromosomes will prepare the cell into a whole new to form another new cell. So this cell now is going to be let's say a little larger. So, and therefore we will have all our chromosomes aligned at the middle, and the proteins are still going to remain. The proteins are going to still remain where they were, because we have this. So this process now is preparing the cell. The chromosome have condensed, and it's preparing this cell to form new nucleus, and those nucleus we will see what it does at the end of it all. So this cell now will have to go and to undergo to another different process, whereby now this cell itself now will have two different nucleus. Let's see. What I'm talking about is that one. So the nucleus, there is a new nucleus that has been formed. These two nucleus will form another different thing that we will see in a minute too. So after going through this process, excuse me, these proteins and the chromosome that were here will have half of it. So half of the proteins and half of the protein and half of the chromosome, which are in the top cell, will come to the bottom cell. So we'll have the protein and the other protein. Then we will have the chromosome, and this chromosome right here. So the two chromosomes have become now the two cells, the two nucleus now have divided through a process that generalizes all these processes that we do. And this whole process, the purpose of this whole process is to make these cells to produce more number of cells. It doesn't produce just one cell. It will produce more and more cells. And the cell cycle can continue as many times as a cell wants, or as many times as you still live, or as an animal still live, or as any living creature still lives. So we go through another final process now, whereby these cells, because there are two cells now, they both cannot go through to start the whole process, but they will do another thing. One of them can stay in a resting place, or another cell can or the other cell can continue making more protein, making more cells by going through the cell cycle again. So this process now will take another extra space there, and this one can go right there. So this one has two ways. It can go this way, that's two options, or it can come this way. This way now is whereby this cell, one of the cells remains, and one of the cells goes through to start over the cell cycle again. So, and let's say it's the second cell. So it's a protein and another chromosome. Now, we're done with that. Let's now name this different process that we've been talking about, saying process. Yes, the first one now is all about the process going from, it's just all about forming new proteins, and the forming of new protein is the phase is called the G1 phase. G1 phase. So G1 phase, a new protein is formed so that it can form, so that the protein can form a duplicate number of chromosomes. And the process whereby there's duplication of chromosome is called the S phase. S phase. So S phase, let me write down in small letters. So the S phase is a process whereby the chromosomes become duplicated. And now we have 2 chromosomes and 2 proteins. Or if we had 2 chromosomes, if we had 4 chromosomes and 4 proteins, it would be 8 chromosomes and 8 proteins, because there is duplication of all those proteins. But now, because we use one chromosome and 1 protein, we'll have to just have duplicate, just 2 of them. We'll have number of 2 of them. So here now, there is a condensation of the 2 proteins. There is a condensation of the chromosome. What do we call the process that we call for condensation of these proteins is called the G2 phase. G2 phase. So the G2 phase, the proteins condense, the protein condenses and aligns at the middle of this cell in preparation for cell division, in preparation for the nucleus division. So the nucleus now, once they have condensed, the nucleus now try to pull over to different sides, to different ends of the whole cell. So the process now whereby the proteins and the chromosomes goes to their own new cells is called mitosis. M phase gives us a new different process whereby we have new, one of the cells goes away and another cell returns to the cell cycle. And also we have this one, we have this cell can also return and do its main job as a cell. The process of making new energy, the process of and different process that the cell has to go through. So this one now is called cytokinesis, where the proteins, where the cell divides now into 2 different cells, is called cytokinesis. Cytokinesis is the process whereby all these starts. The cells the new cell can go to restart the cell cycle, or can come to this process called the G0. So the G0 is the phase whereby the cell can just go into a resting position. The resting position is where the cell just can continue doing the job for Jesus Christ. The lights are off, sorry. Yes, there you go. Whereby the cell can continue doing its cell cycle thing. Not the cell cycle, but the cell, whatever the cell has to do, and that's called the G0. And now that concludes our cell cycle. But before I conclude, there is stop proteins. There is stop proteins that helps the cells not to be produced as many as possible, because more of the if one of the cells now is not good, these cells can cause this what if one cell is bad, it can cause the whole process to be ruined, and those small processes that can be ruined can cause can be cancerous or can cause any genetic mutation or genetic diseases that we don't want in our life. We just need the new clean cycles. But the stop proteins are the proteins that will help throughout this cycle to verify those to do the checkpoint for all those different for all these different chromosomes, and to avoid different genetic diseases that may occur, because changing one of the sequences in the DNA will lead to genetic diseases. I'm sorry. Yeah. And we don't want to, because we don't want that, there's stop proteins that will help us reduce that one. And now, generally, that's all about the cell cycle, and I want to say that that makes a conclusion of Cell Cycle by Shadrach Bell. Thank you so much.